friends, I'm back with another kind of book review and discussion on Sally Rooney's Normal People. I'm going to be talking about the book and also the TV adaptation. I'm going to try and keep it as spoiler free as I can, but I think towards the end of the discussion I probably will talk about the end of the book, so I'll say when there will be spoilers. Anyway, I originally read this book back in 2019 when I was traveling around Scotland. I was on my own, so when I had some downtime when I was like eating or back in the hotel at night, I would read this, and then when I was traveling home I was hooked, so I was just reading it on the plane and stuff. I reread it this year a few months ago when the BBC adaptation of this book came out. I just wanted a refresher, so yeah, I read it before watching the adaptation. When I first read this book, I was hooked. As I said, I read it in like a day. I couldn't put it down and it was just fully engrossed me. It is quite a different writing style than what I've seen. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but instead of saying stuff like, fair enough, Connell said, where, you know, it's like in speech bubbles, it just says fair enough, said Connell. It's when I first started to read it, I was quite surprised at that type of writing style. I had never seen that before and I found it quite interesting. I know I spoke to my friends and she found it quite off-putting, that kind of writing style. I got used to it, but I will admit, first of all, I was like, this is so unusual to what I've seen before. It's written in kind of like similar to, I would say, Perks Being Wallflower, in the sense that like it's not letters with dates, but it is dates and then the story, and it does jump back and forth between time. It's essentially a contemporary romance novel. Surprise, surprise, I love those. It is, I think, one of the more realistic novels that I've read. I think, I mean, if some of them I love, you know, you read like Lara Jean, she writes the letters and then she falls in love, or, you know, everything. All these novels, like, they're great, but, you know, they have a somewhat like dream come true nature to them, whereas I found, especially for myself, I related a lot to this book and the love story in it. It's basically about two people. It kind of reminds me of the movie One Day, where these two people, you know, come into each other's lives, and then, you know, it's whether or not they stay in each other's lives, and it's just like their story throughout the years. And I just felt like the way it is written and even the show, it portrayed really well like our generation, but I'll get into the show later. Potential spoilers. I think, yeah, it reminds me a lot of One Day, if you like that book and movie, or even like Love, Rosie. It's kind of like right person, wrong time. You know, they go in and out of each other's lives, and you know, sometimes that person wants to be in that other person's lives, and you know, it's like a bit of back and forth, or they seeing other people and everything like that. And yeah, it's quite heart-wrenching. I personally love unrequited love and that longing. I find a lot of my favorite things some element of that, and this definitely has that sort of unrequited love slash longing for someone else. I actually found the first time I read this book, I gave it only a 4 out of 5 because I was so angry at the ending. I just felt like the development that they had made throughout the book, by the time it came to the end, it felt like there was no, throughout the book, it felt like there was development, and then at the end of the book, without saying what happens, I just felt like they fell back into that same old routine and where they should have known better, basically. So I hated it. I was so angry, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, why did this happen? Like, I've just been sucked into this book, and now you've ended it like that. But then as I said, I watched the show and then I rewatched the book. I reread the book, and the adaptation actually helped me to accept and understand the ending better. I think I, not misread, but I think like what I thought, I don't know how I got it so wrong, but what I thought happened, perhaps I just read it with a different kind of assumption in mind. So when I saw the show and how they did that in the show, I was like, oh, this is what it actually means. It's not what I thought. It's actually like the development that I wanted. So it's the only time I could ever say, you know, in any sort of adaptation where the adaptation actually helped me appreciate the book more. And when I reread it, I actually then gave it a 5 out of 5 because it helped me appreciate and understand the ending more. A lot of book adaptations, you know, you're like, oh, they've changed the ending, or they've changed this and they've changed that. This was the only one that I was like, oh, like the adaptation is very close to the novel. It's so well done. Like, poor Mescal and Daisy, they're so beautiful, but it's really well done, and it's very intimate the show. Talking about the differences between the show and the book, I personally love the adaptation. I watched it in one day. I found it a lot more I found I was very engrossed in the book, but I found the show a lot more moving, as I think you do with, you know, when you see your characters coming to life and their story. But yeah, they did the show very well. I thought they cast the characters really well, and I think they did a really good justice. I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who likes this book who didn't like the adaptation. If you are one of those people, please let me know and why you didn't like it, perhaps in my messages so we don't spoil anyone. I thought it was so well done. The main differences I found with the novel and the show is that you have that really intense like connection between them, and it's alluded to in the book, but the show you really see that chemistry, I think, a lot more. It's a lot more palpable, and it's a lot steamier. It's a lot saucier than the book. Like the book, you know that stuff happens, and you kind of, I think, get like a little bit of a taste of that, but the show is much more like chapter 55, like full on, very, you know, I think very, you know, it's portrayed really well, and I think it's realistic for these characters. It's kind of needed for me. I think if it didn't have it, it would not do them justice in their connection. So I think it's done really well. But yeah, if you're not into like some steamier stuff, or you do, you know, watch that one on your own. Don't watch it in public or with your parents around. Because yeah, it's very intense. It does cover like lots of different, like it does cover some other topics as well. It is like, for some trigger warnings perhaps, like it does touch on depression and quite abusive relationships and family relationships. And that's also like within the show too. It's quite hard to watch some of the scenes. And it was quite hard to hear some of the characters and how they felt with their family life. So definitely a warning there. But yeah, the reason I think it's so realistic is it's all about communication. I think our generation, my generation personally, we do have suffer with that. You know, the whole book is kind of about how, you know, assumptions make an ass out of you and me, and if they had just communicated properly, they would like have saved themselves both such a world of pain. And as much as it hurt me to read it, I, you know, related to it so much. Like I've done that myself in relationships and friendships, and you know, I really related to their story and how, like, you know, it's hard to let go of someone, and it's all about, you know, kind of like their first love situation. But I think it's one of the more realistic ones I've read. It's not like this story where like maybe they started out as enemies and then they became lovers and then had lived happily ever after. Like it's quite realistic, you know, of what actually happens in relationships. So I think she's done a great job at that. And yeah, I just also related to the characters. Like, you know, I go on a lot, I used to go on a lot about Call Me By Your Name, love it. But I also didn't just love the love story in that. I really like the characters, and there's a lot of lines in this book. I've actually underlined it. And I quite relate to this, you know, I think when I was like back home and I hadn't moved over here, I, you know, thought, oh, when I go to London, it'll all happen and stuff like that. And I really related to this. It says, Marianne had the sense that her life was happening somewhere very far away, happening without her, and she didn't know if she would ever find out where it was and become a part of it. She had the feeling in school often, but it wasn't accompanied by any specific images of what real life might look or feel like. All she knew was that when it started, she wouldn't need to imagine it anymore. So yeah, just like little stuff like that, you know, while we love the love story of the book, it's also just like the characters that we learn a lot from and can relate to. So if you like contemporary romance, if you like stuff like One Day, Love Rosie, stuff like that, I think it's Where Rainbows End the book is called, I think you'll love this. I haven't read her other book. I've been told to read it, but it just doesn't grip me or reach out to me as much as this one did. I read the story and I'm just like, I don't know. So yeah, if you've read this book, let me know what you think. What did you rate it? And yeah, let me know what you thought. Bye. I'm gonna try and keep it as spoilers free. But I originally, and the love story, it